Bonjour à tous, welcome everybody, salam alaikum. Aujourd'hui, on lance le premier podcast, Jeune 42. Avec notre invité,
Smaïl Allam.
Et donc justement, ce concept qu'on est en train de lancer, numéro 1, aujourd'hui nous avons un étudiant. Donc, Smaïl, dis-nous, justement, alors, la conversation, elle est arabia, français, anglais, donc on va parler dans la langue qu'on nous fait le plus à l'aise. Très bien. Parfait. Donc, Smaïl, dis-moi, qui es-tu?
Alors, Smaïl Allam, étudiant en informatique à l'université d'Alger 1, community manager et ex-communication manager et ambassadeur, je sais c'est trop, j'ai déjà Algiers, c'est Google Developers Group Algiers.
Oui.
Je suis aussi mentor de développement web à World Learning Algeria et j'ai été community manager à plusieurs entreprises. Et je suis aussi ambassadeur à Alger 2.0.
Très bien, voilà. Donc tu es quelqu'un d'assez actif dans la vie associative et la vie entrepreneuriale, on va dire, et communauté autour du développement et de l'entrepreneuriat en général.
Ouais,
ce que j'arrive à voir, mais bien sûr, ta passion d'après ce que je comprends dans tout ça, c'est plus la partie communication.
Oui, alors en fait, après avoir eu mon bac, j'étais vraiment tout ce qui est tech et tout, mais ensuite j'ai déjà Algiers et je voulais intégrer le département de développement. Mais on m'a affecté vers le département de communication. Au début, j'ai pas vraiment apprécié, mais au fil du temps, j'ai commencé à apprécier et j'ai découvert que, en fait, j'adore. Et de là, j'ai commencé à m'intéresser, à faire des formations, et ainsi de suite.
Très bien. Donc, j'ai eu à peu près un parcours similaire où j'ai toujours été dans la tech et tout ce qui est hardware, software, etc. Tellement que tout le monde dans ma famille croyait que j'étais développeur. Et en fait, j'ai fait Bebzoar, j'ai fait génie mécanique, qui n'a rien à voir. Mais pendant tout ce temps-là aussi, je travaillais à droite à gauche. On n'avait pas autant d'associations à l'époque, il n'y avait pas de GDG parce que voilà, je suis quelqu'un qui est né un peu trop tôt pour tout ça. Et à partir de là, justement, donc j'ai développé mes skills dans tout ce qui est vente, communication. Je faisais de la musique, je chantais sur scène, etc. Donc tout ce qui est public speaking et tout. Donc ça m'est venu ensuite naturellement. Et une fois que j'ai fini Bebzoar, j'avais compris que j'allais pas et je voulais pas travailler dans l'engineering, et surtout pas dans l'engineering mécanique. Donc j'ai switché complètement vers le marketing et la communication justement, en faisant un master spécialisé en France. Et depuis, j'ai lancé ma boîte dès que j'ai gagné un peu d'expérience et que dès que je suis rentré, donc ça a duré 1 an donc en France, je suis rentré, je me suis installé, j'ai travaillé pendant 2 ans chez Samsung et j'ai lancé ma boîte dès que la 3G a été lancée parce que voilà, la 3G égale beaucoup d'internautes. Donc maintenant à toi. Aujourd'hui, tu veux nous parler d'un sujet bien précis.
Ouais, je veux parler d'un sujet qui s'appelle les Crucial Conversations.
Excellent. Et donc, qu'est-ce que le Crucial Conversation? What is it?
So, Crucial Conversations is each and every conversation that falls into those three categories. So, it's when emotions run strong, either love or hate or jealousy or either good or
high emotions.
Yeah, just high emotions. And when opinions vary. So maybe I have an opinion, you have another one, they clash.
Okay.
This
so
is
everything related to some lot of a debate or
exactly.
Yeah, when there is confrontation. In
exactly.
Fact. Okay.
And when the stakes are high, maybe there's a lot of money, maybe a position of power and such.
Okay, so it can be sales, it can be politics, it can be a life-changing decision.
Exactly. So even if it's in your personal life, for example, a marriage or some family
life-changing decision.
Yes, exactly. All right. And in those positions, your adrenaline is high and you're more ready to fight than to conversate.
Yeah.
And this is kind of ironic because in these moments you need your best skills of conversation.
You need to be clear-headed.
Exactly. But it's not really the case. So today we're going to try to see how to manage those situations.
Perfect. Donc, the crucial conversations, now we know what's a crucial conversation and when should it happen. And we started by saying this is what we should do.
Yeah, so it's like a manual. So you have it's like a tutorial. You have a step-by-step tutorial, plus some pieces of advice that hopefully I would give. So actually, when you're in a crucial conversation, we usually solve it by dialogue. So what is dialogue? It's the free flow of meaning from the two parts of the debate or conversation. Two parts, or maybe three or more. It's not necessarily just two people. There's what I like to call the pool of shared meaning. So imagine a pool, it's an imaginary pool, where all the parts of that debate or the conversation are putting meaning into that pool. So there are several ways of putting meaning in that pool, but generally the more meaning there's in that pool, the better the conversation is going to go. Okay. So there's something that everyone needs to remember, in my opinion, is that the first person you can control directly is yourself. We're not here to talk about how to control the other person or do some mentalist tricks, something like that. But we're just going to monitor our behaving in order to make the conversation, the atmosphere safe for the other person.
Okay, so now correct me if I'm wrong. In this case, from my experience in these particular, I'm not. I cannot speak. I can use words.
That was very correct.
So in these particular cases and in these situations, one of the most recurring problems is that we are not using the same language or not using the same words to describe things. For example, if you take a technician, somebody with a technical background, speaking to a marketer with a more sales and marketing background, they can discuss or converse during a really long time and not understand one another because they are not using the same words to describe the same things.
That's one thing, yes. That's actually, it's very common. Yeah, as you said, most people find this wall, or let's say this obstacle in their professional life, or maybe even just daily life. So there are several contexts, but I would say that choosing the words is really, really important. But at the same time, so this is one part of the conversation that we need to pay attention to. So this is the content of the conversation. So
this will come after.
Well, let's say that.
In your explanation,
this is there are two things that go hand in hand. So this is the what of the conversation. So the content. Then there's the how. So how you transmit the information. So those two parts, we need to really pay close attention to them. But we usually pay attention to the what. So everyone tries to speak what they want. They try to transmit an idea, but they don't usually really pay attention to how they're transmitting the information.
Yes.
And this is a great mistake. So in some cases, people tend to move towards either silence or violence. So when we say silence, is usually when a person is either shy or maybe in a position where they're not in a position of power. So they just don't say what they really mean.
They shut themselves up.
Yes, they will hold information. Usually it's because of fear.
Or what we call the silent treatment.
Yes, this is another sign of silence. Also, sarcasm. Sarcasm is actually a form of silence.
I'm fluent in sarcasm.
Well, there's sarcasm and sarcasm. There's sarcasm, just for fun, and there's sarcasm where you try to score a point. Yeah. But it's not really healthy for a conversation, if I may say.
It's a bad habit that I have.
Well, we all have bad habits, but the best thing is that you try to improve on them. So this is silence, and then there's violence. So violence is when a person tries to push information into that pool of shared meaning. So we said that pool of shared meaning needs to be filled, but there are also ways to be filled. So you can't just push information because sometimes you just keep talking and talking, but the other person is not receptive. So we need to make sure first that all the conditions are suitable to fill that pool.
Yep.
And it's usually about safety. So there are two safety conditions. The first one I like to call the entry condition. It's about mutual purpose. So let's imagine that you're talking about with someone, but you think that their purpose is bad. It's evil. They try to harm you. Then even if they tell you good morning, you take it as a threat. You're saying like "il me nargue," something like that.
You put yourself in the defensive to begin with.
Exactly. So this is the first. This is the entrance condition, and then there's the continuance condition, which is the mutual respect. It's simple. You just can't talk with someone who doesn't respect you.
Yeah.
So in the first place, you need to make sure that the other person doesn't take you as a threat to them, and then you gotta make sure that he knows that he or she they know that you respect them.
Okay.
So that's it. And
so, just
yes.
Before you continue, what I understand from everything you displayed so far is that in order to start well a conversation, you need empathy. You need to understand the other person and their position in order to make the conversation more fluid.
Absolutely.
Because if you understand well the other person, you can better transmit the message so that they will understand you, and you are already in a state of empathy, so you can receive well also their message.
That's it. It's practically is this. So, excuse me. So we need to ask ourselves a bunch of questions. So when you start talking, you need first to determine if this is a crucial conversation or not, because usually we tend to engage in a crucial conversation without knowing it until we found ourselves in that.
What am I arguing about?
Exactly. So we need to ask ourselves, what are my motives? And then we ask ourselves, what do I want? What do I want for myself? What do I want for the other person? And what do I want for our relationship? And then we gotta ask ourselves, what is my behavior telling about my motives? So basically, you just step out of the conversation and try to see it from a third point of view. And you actually, what I also advise is that you try to find common points. So we usually, from our childhood, usually again, not everyone, but we tend to find the slightest difference with the others.
Yeah.
And as soon as we find a difference, a red light turns on and we attack or we're on the defensive. So at first, we gotta agree to agree. Now, when starting the conversation, you have to tell, or it's advisable, or I highly recommend to say that, look, I will not get out of this conversation until we find a solution. And I would like you to commit as well to that. Because some people just you do not understand, so I will just back off and see. So
this is something that happens way too often. And this is where we make our second pause. No, here, yes, thank you. So we are at 9 minutes. So okay. I would like to make these pauses like less than 10 minutes each time for each section.
All right.
And we will take back after this short pause. Je switch back to French. Une petite explication pour ce que je suis en train de faire. Donc, même si on garde ça en off, j'essaie de garder les coupures à moins de 10 minutes pour pouvoir exploiter justement les vidéos surtout les vidéos sur toutes les plateformes possibles.
D'accord.
Donc là, quand on va faire une session de 45 minutes, donc on va faire un montage où on va voir le tout en un seul. Ça va aller sur YouTube, sur Facebook et en podcast. Et toutes les autres vidéos, par exemple, si je veux envoyer ça sur LinkedIn, je ne peux pas envoyer une vidéo de plus de 10 minutes.
Ouais.
Si je veux envoyer ça sur IGTV, pareil. Si je veux envoyer ça à les deux. Ensuite, on va essayer d'avoir des short clips qu'on va utiliser justement sur les différents réseaux sociaux. Elle a assisté la dernière fois à la formation, c'est la stratégie pyramidale de contenu. Do you know Gary V?
Okay.
Gary Vaynerchuk.
No.
Okay. You should search for this guy.
I'll search for it later.
So you will learn a lot about communication and marketing and all this stuff. So where were we at?
We were talking about agreeing to agree.
Yep. Let's agree to continue this conversation. Let's start. So we're back.
All right. So we were talking about agreeing to agree, and while we are agreeing, there's another point that I would love to talk about, which is apologizing. So a lot of people have different opinions about apologizing and such. Let me tell you something. Apologizing is a very strong tool, but the thing is that you cannot use it always, and you cannot not use it.
Yeah.
So you have to use it. But
this is the thing. As soon as you said apologizing, I define that in two categories. The people who are completely unapologetic, yes. So they never ask to say I'm sorry or anything like that. And those who are, I'm sorry, but they don't mean it.
Yeah. But others, they mean it, but they just apologize too much in things that don't need apologizing.
And this is not a real apology, because being apologizing is not just the word; it's really the meaning. Do you really regret what you said or what you did? Is there something to back up your apology? Like, for example, when we are children, we learn quickly that you have to apologize to your parents when you did something bad. But as soon as you understand that, you start, I'm sorry. But
it's
you can't mean it. It's just an escape route.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and the thing is that we have apologizing, and we have something that is similar but not quite the same thing, which is contrasting. So
contrasting.
Yes, contrasting.
Okay.
So we should apologize when we are wrong, and that's it. But and then how do we know we are wrong? It's a debate. It's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you're not wrong, but the other person takes it in a bad way, in that moment you use contrasting. So contrasting is basically you tell the other person, you just clarify your intent.
Okay, you give it context.
Yes, in a way, yes, relatively. So you tell them that actually, I didn't mean to say this or this. I do not intend to harm you by this. But actually, it's just that I do, and then you explain in a better way what you want. So basically, you just detect that they're feeling threatened, and you feel what is threatening them.
Yeah.
And then
because you used empathy to begin with.
Yes, sure. And when we talk about empathy, I highly advise you to check emotional intelligence.
Yep.
Read, for example, the book of Daniel Goleman about artificial intelligence, emotional intelligence. All right, so you feel that they feel threatened, and then so you contrast, and you're going to address that particular fear in your contrasting. So you tell them that I don't mean or intend to do this, but
and here is what I really mean.
Exactly.
By using other words or rephrasing.
Sure. So that's what is contrasting. So you need to know when to apologize and when to contrast. Because apologizing just to apologize is, as you said, is exactly, and it's not even sincere. And that's it. And then people usually use. When I say people usually, I don't mean most people, but I'm talking about the people who don't really manage crucial conversations very well.
Yeah.
So.
Which is most people.
Well, I don't have the statistics, but
actually, it's really easy to understand. You just have to see around you and on social media and everywhere where people are having like quote unquote conversations.
Yeah.
So you see that if you are not agreeing with somebody on the internet, you have what I call the keyboard warriors that start, you're wrong, you're a piece of beep, and so on. So it starts directly by the confrontation. So people are confrontational, and this is in the human nature, in fact, because we are always on the defensive. We fear something that we don't know, and that is the sparkle of all the battles, the wars, and everything else. So this is what people don't focus to, this is a crucial conversation and I have to be calm and everything. No, this is very rare, something so rare that we need to address it.
I totally agree. So that's why actually I love to talk about this topic. I believe that it's a tool that everyone needs to have. Not only commercials.
Anybody in your life.
Yes, in your daily life, not just in your professional life, but even in your personal life. So those people, or let's say us, we usually tend to mix between facts and opinions or stories.
Yeah.
So
and feelings.
Or feelings too. So there's something I like to call them stories. You'll see why. I'll get to it in a minute. But yes, they are also feelings. So it's a mix of personal point of views and so on. So anything that is subjective.
Yep.
So we usually tell ourselves those stories. So when we're in a conflict, we tell ourselves stories, and those stories are usually either the victim. We tend to victimize ourselves. We tend to tell that the other is evil, so the other is villain. Either we also say that we're helpless, like we say la khalb.
Yep. What you are saying, earlier I talked to you about Gary Vee, and I tend to really quote him a lot because he is a special kind of businessman who's very wise, even if it doesn't really appear at first glance when you see him. He curses a lot. Really. He's a Jersey boy. So this guy is always talks about self-awareness. You have to know yourself and stop making excuses. Everything that you define is making excuses. It's not my fault, it's the sun that was in my eyes, it's that person is evil, and this is making excuses. And
exactly.
His purpose in life is suffocating the excuses out of everybody.
I already love this person.
Yeah, I know that you will love him, because your discourse right now is something that is really reflected in what he says too. And what I like about him is that he articulates often simple thoughts that we have and that we cannot really articulate clearly because we lack the experience that he has. Yeah. We have another context.
But I personally, actually, I always aspire to simplify the information the more, because when I was a kid, I used always to complicate things and such. But anyway, let's not talk about myself.
You can. Well, this is an open tribal.
All right.
Tribune, sorry. Oula, tribal. Strange words.
Okay. So, as I was saying, we try to... There are those three kinds of stories: the villain, the victim, and the hopeless. Or helpless. Sorry.
Yes.
Helpless. So, I think that there are no bad people, only normal people who do bad things. But once we demonize them, we make demons out of them, we can do anything to them. We can attack them and we wouldn't feel guilty, and we would have all the rights to crush them once we demonize them. But the thing is that I believe personally that there are no bad people, only people who do bad things.
I completely agree with that, and this is why we will take another pause right now.
All right.
And like Dr. Tyson says, we'll catch you up in the next section. Tac. Très bien. Désolé, نحبسها 9 minutes à chaque fois.
En fait, معليش نشوف بزاف لهنا.
C'est pas un problème, tu fais comme tu veux. Il y a pas. Je me plateau télé ou là, voilà, c'est l'acteur décontracté, pas de problème. Donc, ok, donc لازم نحبسو, on va arrêter à 40 à peu près, très bien, là on aura 45 minutes, maximum 40. Voilà. Donc, كنا في très bien, donc the three excuses. And go. So we are back and we go into the details of what I called the excuses.
Yeah. So actually, those excuses. Well, let's say, for example, when you make another person a villain, when you make a villain out of a person, with experience and maturity, you start caring more about the effect of that people have on you than their intent. So they're not really villains, and usually those stories are what we call bad stories or clever stories, because you need some imagination to make them, because they're actually unfinished stories, and we tend to mix them with facts. So those are actually interpretations of what the other person's behavior.
Yep.
Let's say that I have a poker face. All right. Maybe I have a stern face, a stoic face, and people think that I'm angry or always not sympathetic and so on.
No, I know that because it's my natural state.
Same.
Like my natural state when I'm not with people and I'm smiling, I'm like.
Absolutely the same.
This is my resting face, you see.
Exactly, and so actually there are several interpretations. This is where stories are born, and people usually mix them with facts, and this is quite a bad thing because it leads to conflict.
Yep.
So what I would advise people to do is to separate them. So when talking, I advise you to use facts first. So you start by stating your facts, what you see, what you notice. And then after that, you start telling your story or your interpretation based on those facts. So when you're talking about the other person, you can say, I didn't notice this and this, and from this, etc. And then you start telling your point of view. After telling your point of view, then we can talk about what you're going to ask the other person about. How do they see things? So let's make a small comparison. You're stating your story directly. You're making an interpretation which might lead to or may lead to a conflict, versus when you start stating facts. So when you say facts, you're less likely to insult the person.
I'll give you one counter example, because something in the actual news since a certain president in the United States of America, Trump, has started in his debates or conversations, everything that he has, he never uses facts. He uses only feel. I think that. You see, all his phrases, or his phrasing, in fact, is related to non-facts.
Yes.
And this is very clever from him, because our brains are wired to be first emotional. You have three layers. One is like reptilian, it's reflexes. The second is emotions, and the third one is analytical, and it's the biggest.
Yeah. Daniel Goleman stated in one of his books that we have some shortcuts in our brain that tend to convey emotions much faster than facts or, let's say, analytical information. So,
what you are stating, like the what, the why, how, and what.
Yeah.
So, if you know Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
Like he speaks about the three golden circles, and when you want to convince people and have like a really faithful following, gaining trust when you are trying to convey a message or sell something. So Martin Luther King, Apple, and the Wright brothers, the three examples he used, were starting by I have a dream, this is our vision, this is like, so they were speaking first to the emotion part, and then they give you the what. So the how, sorry. So And it happens that we at Apple, we are great engineers and designers that make simple products for everybody, blah, blah, blah. And the what is, here is our phone, do you want to buy it?
Yes.
So, and the Wright brothers, the same thing, the Martin Luther King says same thing. So, but this is not a conversation. This is just a message that you are throwing out. But in your conversation, you can use messages.
True.
So in politics, for example, it's slogans, it's ideas, it's this is the vision I have for the country, this is blah blah. And
it's an exchange of messages.
yeah, and if you use this strategy, what you are speaking about, without twisting it like certain politicians, like going from here is the vision, so you're speaking to the emotion, and this is how I tend to do it because I have these knowledge and experience and my staff and everything, and this is what you will get, the promise. You see?
Well, the thing is that we are actually with this technique. I believe that we address the emotional part by caring about the how. So how you convey the information. So
technically, explain this to me. Sorry.
So when I say how, is mostly to make them feel safe. So it's not about what words we are using.
Okay, so it's not the how of your argument, it's the how of how you are articulating it.
Yes, so how you're conveying the message. So our first goal, so all those pieces of advice and tutorials that I will be talking about is the first goal is to make the other part
comfortable,
feel safe.
Yeah.
So we need to make them feel safe. And then there is decision making and such. So here it's more about it's a logical part and such. But our first goal is to make the other feel safe. Once they feel safe, we can fill that pool of shared meaning. And when it's full, we're not going to make stories anymore. So and the thing is that we're not trying to win the conversation. So you have to enter the conversation while you're ready to change your mind.
Okay, I'm trying right now to make the parallel between what you are explaining and my professional work.
Yes.
So there are two places where in the professional work that I have in web marketing, we have conversations. One is when you are trying to converse with a client. So it's a discussion, a negotiation, etc. It can be a crucial conversation. And you have the other part, which is not related to that, is the service that we provide to our clients, which is the community management. And there you also have a lot of crucial conversations. So how do you converse with someone who's really, really pissed off?
All right, how do you converse with someone who's really pissed off or angry? You need to make safety, as we said. So we have the two conditions, which is the mutual purpose and the mutual respect. So you have to state clearly that you have the same purpose. Maybe it is for the wellness of your client, or for their satisfaction, or maybe for a better relationship between you two. So either just find a mutual purpose.
Yep.
You have to find it. And you need to find, you need to respect them, obviously, and make it clear.
Yep.
So, but sometimes you don't feel like respecting that person. All right, so you just don't feel like respecting them for a reason or another. So, in this case, you try to find a common ground. So you try to find the common point between you and that person, and then you start building on them. And therefore, you may be able to display a mutual purpose. So once they know that your intent is not actually to harm them or to sabotage their company or their how to say that again? I forgot. Their reputation. Their reputation. Yeah. So once they know that, you still. You might expect that the results are going to come right after it, like on the second, but not really, because you need to wait for those chemicals in the brain, for the adrenaline to settle down.
Yeah, in fact, the problematic part is not with the clients where you have the person in front of you, because for this, it's rather easier because you can analyze the person, you can understand what emotions they are going through and everything. But when you're on the keyboard and managing a page on Facebook and on Instagram, on Twitter, and people are starting to get angry, you don't know if they are really angry or they are trolling, or you see?
Yeah, I understand. Well, I think this needs some experience and a lot of empathy, in my opinion. So
Always.
that's the short answer for it.
In fact, everything you said is exactly the textbook for a community manager. You never lose your cool. These are people that you are speaking to, and they have to get the proper respect from you, as you would in real life if you are a decent human being. So these people, you have to understand them, use empathy, and understand why are they angry. Why is it because they have been badly served? Is it because the product you're selling doesn't behave rightfully? Because they spent money to have something from you, and it doesn't behave the way it should. Is it so? We have to fix that for them, or are they just haters, like what we call haters? So these people who everybody calls trolls or haters are, if you really use empathy, it's people who are feeling so bad that they are trying to drag you down with them. So even for this category, you can use empathy and understand them. So one simple example, like everybody who's driving in this country, in Algeria, has felt the pressure when he's arrested, to get his license taken. So when you try to analyze a standard day for the policeman on the road, he's someone who has only angry people yelling at him, because he's the bad guy who is removing your license.
From a certain point of view.
Yes, but because this is, you only see the bad side of the confrontation, like we said earlier. But this person is here to defend you, to protect you, to make sure that the laws are applied on everybody. Like, we can go into a whole debate on this, but this is his role. This is a small story that someone told me. A policeman arrested, just pulled down a friend of mine, and papers please. Yeah, please take. Do you know that your light is off? Blah 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 blah. I will take your license. And this person, instead of getting angry and everything, he said, no, sorry, sir, you don't have to remove to take my license. He said, and why? He said, because your role is to protect and to protect the citizen. You're in the service of the citizen. Your job is not to take the license. The policeman was so surprised by this, he started to laugh, because he didn't anticipate this kind of reaction, that you're right, my job is not to punish you, my job is to protect you. And in order to protect you, you have one of his lights was broken. You have to fix your light. So now you have a warning, and since you reminded me clearly of my real duty, here is your license, please fix your light, it's dangerous to drive this way. And you see, it was so nice for him to have this kind of reaction, and not like the angry face and I will call some guy to put you down and everything. It was solved really nicely and smoothly.
Exactly. So actually, first of all, I remember this trick, so I might use it someday. It might be useful. And
cannot work all the time.
Yeah, sure. But at least I will try. But the best thing is not to fall in those situations.
Exactly.
So this actually reminds me of a story that I saw on a talk. Someone had a car accident, but nothing really bad. But then the other driver came out and he was shouting and he was really angry. And the first driver just told him, which was actually the one who was talking in that conference, he told him, look, I'm going to say it in Darja, يضربني يا نحن نشرب القهوة. So the other one didn't expect this. So he was like, he stopped and he was looking shocked. And and then he realized that why am I just screaming on such a nice person? Then, well, actually, they went. They took coffee and they
made the paperwork and
numbers and so on. So, in my opinion, I think that you need to show that you care about the other person, and even if they're really, let's say, bad, they're acting in a bad way, aggressively with you, just face it with an unexpected nice behavior.
Yep.
That way you're just gonna short-circuit court-circuiter their brain, and they will transform into another person.
Excellent. So now I have a question for you. Like, I will go back to something I should have asked in the beginning. Why are you so interested in this subject?
Why am I so interested in this subject? Because, well, first, as a community manager, I started to get more interested into communication with time. Well, even if it's not like what I study or what I study, but I'm really interested in it. So I started searching, and then I found out that everywhere there are conflicts. And as you said earlier, I really believe that most wars or conflicts or any kind of disagreements are born from misunderstanding.
Yep.
So even in my daily life or personal life, I in my family, in my friends, in my professional surrounding, I did notice that communication is really poor. And then when I was searching on Google, I found some books. That later on I would suggest them. But I started reading them, and then I thought, this is c'est une révélation, actually. So I thought that everybody must know about this. Not that should, but must know about
And are you actively practicing all these advices in your life?
I tend to, yes, in the best way I can. So I'm not saying that I'm a perfect communicator.
Yeah, of course, it's a work in progress.
Exactly. So it takes it takes practice, a lot of practice, and every day you can just try and use or apply some pieces of advice, some techniques. But with time, let's say a few months, a year, or maybe 2 years. Let's say even 2 years, it might sound like a long period of time, but on the long run, those 2 years are
it's nothing.
Yes, it's nothing, and it can get you out of the most difficult situations. So I believe that communication is key in mostly everything.
Yep, I agree with that.
So I just try to, I'm like an evangelist about communication. So recently I tend to talk about it whenever I can. And yeah, that's it. Like today.
Yeah, of course. And do you have any like parting words if you had to recommend books or people to follow or anything?
Alright, so at first I would like to... Actually there are 2 or 3 books that I would recommend. Firstly, I like to recommend L'intelligence émotionnelle or Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman.
So he will send me all the details and I will put it in the description.
Yeah. So that's the first one, and then there's another one, Les 5 clés pour cultiver son intelligence émotionnelle, still by Daniel Goleman. This one is more like a tutorial. The first one is like a thesis.
Okay.
And the second one is smaller, is shorter, but it has like example of your daily life and how to react to them and such. Then there's the third book, which actually inspires most of what I said today, which is, let me remember the name, I think it's called Tools. Hold on, I'll give it to you later and then you can put it in the description. Okay. It has actually several authors and the title is pretty long, so alright. But the main thing to remember is crucial conversations.
Perfect.
So that's it. So those are the 3 books that I highly recommend, and I believe that it would kickstart you in your in all the aspects of your life.
Excellent. And how do we find you on the web?
Sorry?
How do we find you on the web?
Well, you just type my name, Smaïl Allam. Actually, Allam is A-L-E-M, A-L-E-M.
Okay.
A lot of people misspell it, so and you'll find my picture.
Okay, so
either
it's your
on
name on
LinkedIn, yeah,
LinkedIn?
my name, my first name, my last name. So either on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, those are it. And then I have also like WhatsApp and such, but you need my phone number for that.
No, you can add people with their handle.
Well, just type my name, it's Smaïl Allam, and then you can find me wherever you want.
Perfect. So, do you happen to have a blog?
Sorry?
A blog.
Well, I do not have a blog.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
No, because I don't really have either the time to really take care of a YouTube channel, nor as much content as I would like to keep it living. You see, constantly.
It's not something that you need to do like professionally.
Yes, I know. But yes, continue.
It would be a nice thing to have, because the social networks you cited are social networks, so it's passive consumption for the people who will see or consume your content. But YouTube and a blog are something that is searchable. So you can make only 3 videos your whole life, and it will still gain views and serve people, because it's something that how conversations Algeria blah blah, and you will appear and you see.
Well, now that's for the YouTube videos, so I'm not really sure about YouTube videos, but I may actually do some in the either near or far future. So thanks for the suggestion. Actually, I know that. For the blog, I thought of maybe making some articles on Medium.
Yep.
So I thought of writing some. So maybe whenever I have time for it, I'll write some articles.
And it's a good exercise in general.
Yeah. So that's it. And as a community manager, my job actually tells me to be present on most, if not all, social media.
Everything.
So that's it's easier to find me.
Perfect. So thank you very much for your explanation on the subject.
It's my pleasure, and actually it's much deeper than that, but hopefully
we cannot explain all the subject in 40 minutes. Of course.
I agree. So hopefully you learn new things, and those few precious minutes did help you.
It was very instructive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure, really.
It was shared. How do you say it in English?
Likewise, I think.
Likewise, okay. Likewise. Don't cut. Thank you very much. And everybody, if you have anything to ask, if you have questions about the subject, si vous voulez apprendre plus, donc il y a la description qu'on va mettre en bas avec les liens pour les références des bouquins et des personnes à suivre. ولا حبيتوا تسقسيونا donc laissez aussi en commentaire, ça va être sur Facebook, YouTube, Dunia Gaïtek, et je vais taguer ses comptes pour que vous puissiez aussi rentrer en contact avec lui ou tسقسيو Inch'Allah. Merci à tous, merci encore Smaïl, et à bientôt. Et merci aussi à Jamila, donc c'est elle qui est responsable justement d'inviter les personnes qui sont dans le podcast de Gen 42. Ciao.
Au revoir.